welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who is currently playing the game Styx, Master of Shadows. It's Jonny Numb.
Yeah, I'm living in the Styx right now. How's it going?
Yeah, so how's the controller, Jonny Numb? I know that it's an immersive world. I know that there is a lot of work that went into this, that Michelle and her company, they put a lot of work into this. They had a hit. They're going for their second hit, but how do you feel about the controller?
I don't know, Mark, because it looks a little like something out of David Cronenberg. Maybe it's a little bit of an Existenz controller, I would say.
Goodness. Ew.
It's a bit, imagine a PlayStation controller, but with a bit of the Texas Chainsaw touch, where it's like sort of bound in a tight skin that's been stitched together.
So if the Necronomicon was a controller?
Well, you have to do a Klaatu Barata Nikta to get the controller to activate.
Can we throw some alien goo on it?
Please, I'd encourage that. Actually, it might help. Yeah.
Slather the alien glop.
I don't know.
The juices. They're very juicy creatures.
Just beware of the concentrated acid. Don't put that goo on it. Yeah.
So I gotta tell you, Jonny Numb, so far you and I have talked about S. Craig Zahler's Dragged Across Concrete. We've talked about Nicholas Winding Refn's Only God Forgives. We've covered Lars von Trier's The House That Jack Built, and now we're on to Paul Verhoeven's Elle.
Yes.
I love it.
I do too. It's, again, like you said before, it's our feel-good series here at MFF. Yeah.
I mean, we are tackling some pretty heady issues, and this works out really well because I'm really trying to get through all of Verhoeven's films, through his filmography, to kind of talk about, because I'm fascinated with his process. So we've covered Total Recall, which is actually our biggest podcast of the last 2 years. Episode.
Deservedly so. That is a fantastic episode. Norbert.
Oh, yeah.
I got to express my love for Norbert because I just have a big smile whenever he's on and I start laughing my ass off. It's fantastic.
Yeah, he's a favorite. People love some Norbert.
Yeah.
And we also just covered Hollow Man. And that movie, all right, so this is going to sound really weird. And I didn't mean for this segue, but Hollow Man is more disturbing to me than Elle, because Hollow Man has some very nasty scenes, but it's also a very major Hollywood $100 million movie. And some of the, the attacks in that film, Kevin Bacon, when he, the rape scene, it's treated with such little weight and such, there's no weight to any of it. It's just like a fetishistic thing that in no way challenges the viewer. And in that, when he makes it feel easy, that's when I feel more disturbed in regards to his films. And so watching Elle, I feel like this is back towards the Robocop, the Black Book, the Starship Troopers, even Showgirls, not to the extent. I mean, he filmed that very heightened on purpose. And, in this one, obviously not like Isabelle Huppert, she is perfect in this role. She's the opposite of what Berkeley did. But I like how he challenges viewers. And as I've done so much research in this, Jonny Numb.
Excellent.
The thing is, the more reviews I read, the more think pieces I read, the more press junkets, the more interviews I read, it makes me want to stop reading them.
Ooh.
And the reason being is a lot of these I've read some reviews where they're like, this rape comedy. This is not a rape comedy. This rape revenge film. I don't see that as that either. And then they're talking, like, I read a review that praised the movie, but they said that Michelle was like a terrible boss at work. She's a bad woman. She has all these cliches. But then I start thinking she goes to work and her employees go at her and she gives logical responses back to them. She is good to them. Her ex-husband, we find out later on, hit her. So her jealousy towards her and his new yoga instructor comes from a sense of, this guy hit me. He kind of blew up what we had, and now he's doing this, so I have these feelings. She grew up incredibly traumatized with her serial killer father. So as I'm reading all these reviews, I keep reading these things about her saying she's an anti-hero and all of these, and I'm not on their save wavelengths. When Verhoeven and Isabelle were talking about this film, they're saying that it's just basically the story of a woman and what happens in her life trying to keep control and keep her life moving forward. Obviously, I can't look into what it's like to be that, but it's interesting just reading all of these I had an epiphany today, and I know I'm talking a lot. We'll let you talk
No,
soon.
no, no. Please, please. It's all good stuff. Go ahead.
The opening shot of this film, it's kind of like the aftermath
Oh God,
of
yeah.
the rape. And what's interesting, I'm saying that word, and I don't feel comfortable saying it, but in all the interviews, Verhoeven and Isabelle Huppert, they kept correcting people to say that. And I think that's very much so maybe more of a European than American sensibility. But the opening shot is a cat, and the cat walks away listlessly. The next shot is something we don't really see in the rest of the movie, where the camera is static, it's low to the ground, and it's looking like it's outside of a room, looking into another room. So you have the door frame in the foreground, and her attack, the aftermath of her attack in the background, and it's still, and it's detached.
Yes.
And it's static. So seeing that scene, because the rest of the film, it's wonderfully shot, but it goes more towards handheld camera work. It's very, almost, not documentarian, but it's very kind of, it moves, it flows. There's not much fat. When they go to eat, the eating is fast. The scenes move quick. And this scene, the initial part of it, it really takes its time. And it keeps a distance from her. And so that's the way I watched this movie. I was able to kind of sit back and just watch her journey over the next 2 hours and 11 minutes. So I don't know if you felt that same way, but I really liked the kind of difference in that opening shot from the rest of the movie. And I feel like that was a visual cue, at least for me, on how I should watch it and how I should react to the things happening to me.
That's an interesting observation, Mark, because the way this movie moved for me, I was just kind of like, I don't know what the word is, maybe flabbergasted by what I was seeing, the aftermath of what you were talking about, and the fact that not unlike Irreversible, but maybe not to that extent, there's that static, well, you can't look away from it. You're just gonna watch the assailant get up, clean himself off, and walk out the door again. But I think that's interesting because, maybe Verhoeven, like you were saying, kind of just wants us to sit there and process with Elle, because you question, I've seen a lot of movies that take the typical rape revenge premise, and there's certain beats that get, hit along the way, typically in those types of films. So to have this movie start right away, right off the bat with the actual incident itself, you're kind of like, it's like I was sitting there in the theater years ago thinking, okay, what predictable path is this going to take? I know it's Paul Verhoeven, but there are certain things that he's probably not going to be able to avoid in telling this story. And just within a minute or two, he starts changing the game.
She starts ordering sushi.
Yeah, it's like she cleans up the broken dishes. She takes a bath. Yeah, and she orders sushi. And I feel like it's about a 24-hour period that passes before she just cavalierly brings it up over dinner with some of her ex-husband and two of her coworkers.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was kind of like, it was just kind of this whirlwind of feeling and experience, but you're looking at Huppert, and she's just kind of like, she has that wonderful passive face, I think, when you look at her not doing anything. And then she just kind of comes out with these things. That's why I feel like every time she says something, it's almost a surprise, kind of like what is she going to say, especially after she's treated this incident with just not the level of concern that we've grown accustomed to seeing in movies anyway. Yeah,
it's kind of interesting because this movie was critically adored. It won oodles of awards. It won all the Caesars. It won Golden Globes. She was nominated for Best Actress. But I think there are a lot of people who didn't know how to handle that this film doesn't go where it should, in air quotes, should. It's not that movie at all. And I guess it is a marketer's nightmare because a lot of people are trying to push this psychological thriller. Like it becomes just a journey about her life. And I like that more because it's different. It's challenging. It doesn't hit those same beats. And those beats can be very cathartic in certain films. But I don't know. This one, I just enjoyed the journey because I didn't know where it was going. I absolutely liked it. And I want to see what you think. Verhoeven said that in the movie she's very mysterious in the beginning. At the end, she's just as mysterious, and there isn't that much character development. That comes from the director.
Yeah.
Do you feel the same way? That's a big question.
Well, it's interesting, Mark. We were talking about how like the handheld camera and the editing and how everything is very fast. And I feel like despite the fact that it's 2 hours and 11 minutes long, we still don't have a lot of time to stop and think about things.
Yeah.
As they're happening. And I think Verhoeven does that pretty strategically. I would actually agree with that sentiment that I felt like she was just as mysterious a character because the psychology of the characters is kind of kept at a certain distance, I feel. Like anything explicit, that we know about the characters is because of their interactions with one another. But a lot of stuff isn't really necessarily firmly spoken per se. There's still that element of, okay, well, what is the underlying motive here? What is Elle hoping to get out of ratting out someone she's been having an affair with to the person that they're married to? What's the angle there? And I felt that was kind of like, yeah.
And I kind of like that you said, what's the angle? Because that just adds another wrinkle to her character. And one thing I really like about this movie is these characters, there's different facets to them that don't make them entirely one-dimensional. So her son, what I kind of like about her son is that, I mean, this seems like a kid who was raised up, Vincent, to be, it seems like everything he does is kind of bad in his eyes. Oh, I'm going to have more wine. Well, maybe you shouldn't have more wine. Oh, you have this job, or you have this girlfriend, or I feel like he is sort of he's an underachiever, and she said that he was fighting and selling drugs, but he also seems to be a guy who has no confidence, and maybe he got that growing up. And then I like at the end that he runs that party, and he seems to do a decent job at it, and he wants to be a decent dad, he just doesn't know how to. So here's this one-dimensional character, but there's more to him. Also, I like that there is, at the end, the wife, Rebecca, she talks throughout the movie about being a devout Catholic and loving everyone, but she also knew that her husband potentially had spoilers. She was like, thank you for making him happy. Thank you for allowing him to do that. And you're like, what? So she understood that. And then you have her husband, Richard, who seems like a very bland teacher. Who seems like he's obviously a professor, and he has this young yoga teacher girlfriend, but he also has this violent side where he hit Michelle. And I also like with the girlfriend, who is Josie is her name?
Josie is Vincent. Josie is Vincent's girlfriend.
Yeah, Vincent's girlfriend. Where she
Helene is Richard's. Yeah,
got it. Yeah, she yells at Vincent a lot. I mean, she obviously yells at him. She has cheated on him, but whenever we see him, he is staring at the TV. Or forgetting things. Now, there are overreactions, but it must be a pain in the butt to live with this guy. So I kind of like how there are different facets to these characters where you can't quite get them pinned down. So you kind of think, oh, she's treating him terribly, but then he's doing this. It just adds to the three-dimensional quality of this movie that doesn't make it any easier for the person of someone to watch. Because this is really weird, but Levengood and I, John Levengood, we've been doing a race trilogy. And we talked about Rush, we talked about Days of Thunder, and then we moved into the movie Driven. And it's weird that there's no villain in any of those movies. There's no main antagonist in these movies. And with this one, you're kind of thinking, okay, she's going to go get that axe, she's going to train, something's going to happen, it's going to become, like Home Alone.
Oh, yeah.
And it just doesn't go that way. And even the antagonist in this movie, you get to know him to a certain extent. Obviously a horrible human.
Yeah.
But, he's saying they give him a life as well. It's just a very interesting character study. And that's kind of what I like about watching it. It's not easy. And then it seems like people appreciate it, but I liked it a lot too. So.
Well, I think that's the thing, Mark, and I think that's kind of the recurring